Hello everybody and welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to show you how to set up the NRF24L01 on the Arduino. So this is what you're going to need. So as you can see on my list, first thing I've got is something special. I'll explain that in a second, but if we carry on with the second one, we need two NRF24L01 modules. And just to show you the module, here it is. You're going to need two of these. Now when you buy these things, you're not going to have this capacitor on here. You won't have that capacitor, but I'll explain that in a second. So you're going to need two of those. So there's my two. You're going to need two Arduinos. I'm using the Arduino Pro Mini, which if you've been following my videos, I use these for everything. You'll need two UARTs, FTDI UART. You'll need two voltage regulators. And the ones I'm using here are the AMS1117 3.3 volt. So you're going to need two of those. Okay. Now, going back to capacitors, I've used here, I'll show you what I've used. You can see there, 330 microfarad, 6.5 volts, 6.3 volts. And I'm not exactly sure about this. I don't know if that's the optimal capacitor, but what I can tell you is it works for me. So from what I've been reading online, you need somewhere in the range of this, 100 to 1000 microfarads. So yeah, I've used 330. And the reason why I've pointed out greater or equal 5 volts is because, of course, this is on a 3.3 volt circuit, so you're going to need a capacitor that can more than handle that voltage. So you can see on there, 6.3 volts. So I'd recommend anything above 5 volts really. So you need the breadboard. I've got two of these. Put these to one side, but you're going to need breadboards. And jumper leads. I've got various different leads. So now coming over to this something special. So if you take a look at the NRF module, you can see that it has 8 pins. And the problem is they're not breadboard compatible. So if I put a breadboard over here, they're just not compatible. If you put it one way, you'd short two sets of 4 pins together. If you put it the other way, you'd short 4 sets of 2 pins together. So it's not breadboard compatible. So what you have to do is make it compatible. So I've made this little thing here. It's basically one of these headers, 2x4 pin header, and on the other side it's basically the ends of jumper leads, male-to-male jumper leads. So I've cut jumper leads in half and then soldered the ends to the pins on this little header. And then I've put heat shrink on here and shrunk some insulation line. And what this means is that I can then plug the module into this, like that, and then, because I can do that, I can then plug this into the breadboard however I want. Like so. So basically I've just created this little adapter. I've actually created two. And to be able to follow this tutorial properly, you'd probably need to do something similar. Okay, back to the paperwork. So you should have something special. You should have something sorted out for that. 2 of the units, 2 Arduinos, 2 UARTs, 2 voltage regulators, 2 capacitors, 2 breadboards, and a selection of jumper leads. If you've got those things, we're ready to go. So I thought it'd be good to go through what I'm actually aiming for in this tutorial and what I hope the end result to be. And in this tutorial, since it's a basic tutorial, all I want to do is to use one transceiver as a transmitter and one transceiver as a receiver. And the reasons for this is that I like to work on something that's stable. I don't really like the idea of going straight in and having them transmitting and receiving straight away. I like to try and work on it and add to it. So for now, to keep it simple, we're going to use one as a transmitter and one as a receiver. So that's how I'm going to program it. So we'll get the transmitter transmitting, then we'll get the receiver receiving, then we'll make sure that we can actually do it. We can make sure that they work. Then I want to swap the roles, so I'll get this one receiving and I'll get this one transmitting. So I'll swap the roles around, and we can make sure and verify that we can both transmit and receive in both units. And then we know that they're both working, and we know that we can transmit, and we know that we can receive. So that's the logic behind this. Then probably in the next tutorial I'll go through the actual transceiver code, which is where each one can both transmit and receive. I just thought it would be useful to research a bit about this unit or this module before I started wiring it up. So just some interesting facts. Some people online are saying about not powering the unit from USB ports and all that. Well, in my opinion, as far as I can see, that's absolute rubbish, because USB 2 and 3 can output, I think it's at least 1 amp, 500 milliamps to an amp, something like that. Well, this unit takes nowhere near that. You can see here that it takes, let's see, to transmit, maximum power is 11.3 milliamps, which is not really anything to be worried about, and also to receive 13.5 milliamps. Well, USB 2 and 3 can easily cope with that, so I'm not worried. So that's the first thing. Supply voltage. Supply voltage, if input signals is greater than that, 3 volts, 3 volts. So it says that typical is 3 volts.